It's been a while since we've talked about Clarke whistles, specifically the Clarke original. So long that I actually had to go buy another one because I gave my last one away and I don't play these very often. But there have been some conversations that have come up on TikTok and on Reddit, other communities that I'm involved in, and I thought it might be worth another look and another opportunity to talk about some of the differences between this and what I would consider its closest competitor, also made by Clarke, the Sweetone. That's the Clarke original. There's not a lot to it. That's what a lot of people really like about it, the simplicity. It's a hunk of rolled metal, I'm assuming some sort of tin or aluminum or something like that, rolled around a wooden block at the end here to make the mouthpiece. Very, very basic, very simple operation. So you kind of get what you get with one of these, and the most primary, the most telling, the most characteristic thing that you get with this is that sort of breathy, airy sound. To my knowledge, it's kind of unique in the whistle world. I've only ever run across one or two others, and those are typically whistles that are broken. A lot of people really like that sound. They like it because it's softer. It's more mellow. It's less piercing than the typical shrill notes that you'd get out of the high whistles. Even at the highest ranges of the whistle, the top part of that octave, still, it doesn't make you squint as much as another whistle might. It's not nearly as shrill. That has further advantages if you're in a confined space, if you're in an apartment, sharing a wall with somebody, you've got small children, that sort of thing. It's definitely more pleasant. Your dog would be grateful, for example. It's also affordable. They're about 20 bucks. I think I got this on Amazon for 20 bucks. I'll post a link down below if you want to check it out. That's decent. That's a good starting price for a beginner instrument. So there's something to be said for that. That's kind of the end of the pros list, at least in my book. That's fairly telling. That little test, I've decided to use the Sweetone. Again, this is kind of the main comparison here between the Clarke and the Sweetone. I'm not using a really high-end whistle to prove the point, but I think the point is fairly well proved, the amount of air that you're spending on this whistle versus on this whistle. And to me, that's the real deal breaker with this thing. That's the reason why I don't recommend it and why I try to steer folks into something like this, which is basically the same price. I think it's in fact even a little cheaper. What it boils down to is this. In the world of Irish traditional music, which is the only thing that I have any expertise in, it's very difficult to master phrasing. Phrasing is so fundamental to these tunes in particular, but probably true of any folk music, really, or any sort of acoustic music, I suppose. It's far less about the ornaments and all the fancy stuff that you can get out of an instrument like this than it is about the groove and the lift, and that is entirely based around phrasing. Not entirely. The ornaments certainly help tell that story, but the phrasing is really the fundamental backbone of the groove and the overall feel of the tune. Now, if you're playing an instrument that requires double the amount of air to play versus something like this, you're kind of playing this instrument with one lung tied behind your back. It's an unnecessary handicap purely for the benefit of a slightly softer sound. Once you've been playing a long time and you're volunteering to make that sacrifice, knock yourself out, so be it. I totally understand that, but as a beginner, somebody who's not sure what the phrasing is supposed to be like, it's an unnecessary hurdle to have to jump through, I think. I'm going to complain about the lack of tunability in the whistle. I would do that on any whistle. I don't own any non-tunable whistles. As a beginning instrument, it really doesn't matter. You're probably not going to be playing with anybody else straight away. The only issue you might have is if you're trying to play along to a recording and it's jarring, and if it's off significantly, that's a big issue. If it's just a little bit off, probably not the end of the world. There certainly are non-tunable whistles that are perfectly tuned. They're flawless. Cullen Goldie and Overton and those. This is not that. This is a hunk of aluminum rolled around a wooden block. So if it's not in perfect tune, that's just one of those things you're going to have to accept. And again, it may not be a big issue for your situation. Here's number 3. And I don't think I mentioned this in my last review at all. This is just gnarly. It's a block of wood, and I've been playing this thing for maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long I've been making this video. It's got some, like, grundle on it already. I know it's my own grundle, but, man, come on. That's just icky. Sweetone. It's a good name for it, I think. It's definitely a very bright, I don't know, happy, kind of pleasant sound. It's also a very efficient sound relative to the original Clarke that I was just playing, and that's the reason why I've been playing these things since I think I was about 19. I was in college. This is not my original. My original got squished by my college dorm room ladder. RIP. But this one has been great. I've had it for a few years now, and it's the one that I recommend to absolutely anybody who's just starting out. Because it's very, very forgiving, it's very easy to play, and it's still got a nice sound, I think. Yes, it's a little louder, yes, it's more shrill, but it's a whistle. They're kind of supposed to sound like that, I'm afraid. And as you're just starting out, I think those breath savings that you'll get will give you a little bit more room to manipulate the phrasing in these tunes and get a better handle on the tunes, and better handle on how they're supposed to sound. If you're constantly thinking about your next breath, you're probably not thinking about how does this thing sound as a whole? How does this tune sound? The benefit that you'll get from extra air, I think, really can't be understated, particularly in the early stages when you're trying to figure out phrasing. Having more time to play with these tunes, play with the melodies, and play with those spaces and when you should take a breath, when you should drop a note, it's going to be a lot easier on a whistle like this because you just simply are more flexible that way. You have more time. Versus thinking about when your next breath is coming. Because as I was playing that tune that I started with, that's really what I was thinking, because I don't play these very often, and it's jarring, at least for me, for coming from whistles that don't have that lack of breath issue, I suppose. So that's my take on these. Let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of y'all play one or both, so let me know if you agree or not. Give me the thumbs up if you don't mind. Give me the thumbs down if you disagree. I suppose that's cool too. Let me know what y'all think, though, because I am curious if there's some other benefit that maybe I'm missing, and maybe you think I'm way off base recommending the Sweetone. I don't know. Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.